Hey guys, welcome to Friday Night Gun News. I am Paul Glasgow, Legally Armed America, and I'm sitting here getting some some updates on my news. I'm trying to update myself real quick on some of the happenings going on in news right now, and I apologize if my camera is kind of skewed a little bit. I'd like to get my flag in there if at all possible because I do believe in America and happy to be here. Hey guys, oh, what happened? I lost my screen there. Let's see here. Where are you? There you go. All right, fellas. Again, as you come in the room, I will do some quick announcements real quick. Very good to see you guys in here already. Again, I've never seen this before. This is the second week, I believe, in a row where we've got people waiting to get in the room. That usually whenever I click on the like the link to go live, it I have to sit here and wait for people to come strolling in the room because the way it used to be, and maybe it's changed a little bit since then. But typically, you had to wait until the room got open and then people came into it. Now it's kind of interesting. It's like you guys are. It's like sitting on the front porch or something like that, or it's almost like no, I got it. It's like Black Friday. It's like you're waiting at the door, and as soon as the door opens, there's people waiting to get in. So very unusual. It's again second week in a row I've seen this. Kind of cool. Let's see. It's Ty J is in the room. What's up? Ashley LeComp's in here. Richard Portella. Ralph McDaniel, Keith Gregory, Jay Griff is in here. Dubai Antimano, I guess is the way you pronounce that. Keith Gregory, Happy New Year to you as well. Ryan Jimbo's in here. Chris Settles. Southern California Deplorable Henry Linman was in here. Posted a link. I do not see. It's held for review. So I don't know what it's all about. Let's see. Nod your head when you see it, and I'll remove it from the stream. I actually, Southern California Deplorable Henry Lemon. I don't have time to look at it, so I will look at it later on. At this point, huge ass bear. What's up, man? I guess that's Chef. Yeah, Chef Chops Brew. What's up? Daryl Romine, Ursula Scrunchy. Brian Barry, James Perkey, Craig Sheely, Ryan Jimbo, Robert Guthrie, Eldenol one. Man, come on, y'all gotta make it easier for me. Our guard is in the room. Our guard says, "Hey Paul, it's been a while. I have a question. Do you know anyone in the Cajun Navy?" No, I don't. I do know one guy, and I don't remember his name. He's one of the head guys. Um, I wouldn't say I distanced myself from the Cajun Navy, but for Hurricane Harvey, me and a very good friend, we got sorry, not a 16, a 20-foot John boat and went down to Houston. And the first day, we spent over half the first day with miscommunication and screw ups and bad information from the Cajun Navy. Their dispatch people they have were horrible at what they did. Now, I know they were in over their head, no pun intended, but did a very bad job. So we spent the next 2 days just going to neighborhoods and plucking people out of flooded homes. So we tried. We tried to, I guess you could say, become a part of the Cajun Navy. We just wanted to assist them because we believe in what they do and what they were doing. And I still have a lot of respect for those guys, but man, there's a big time organizational screw up going on over there, I guess, whenever they amass and they go do things. They probably need to spend a little more time developing somebody to stand behind or stay behind and coordinate a little bit because it didn't work out too well during Hurricane Harvey. They do a lot of great stuff. This is not a knock against the Cajun Navy. It's just that some of their stuff is not that great from a coordination standpoint. We were still able, and we did a video on it, we were still able to help save hundreds of people, their pets, their belongings, things like that. Blew my mind the amount of water that was in these people's homes. 6 feet of water. I mean, we were walking. There was a couple of people that we would go into their houses. There's 3.5, 4 feet of water. Their couches are floating. It's I never want to be that in that condition. I never want to. So that's why it felt good for us to go help because of that. You know, we might be in that condition one day. But yeah, I don't know anybody personally. Man, I want to say the guy's name is Cody or something. He lives out in Carlos, Louisiana. He's one of their main guys, not far from here. He's half an hour from here. But anyway, that's what I know about them. Other than that, I don't know anybody directly from them, and I don't know this guy, directly. He, only reason why I know who he is, I was at a gun show one year, gosh, 3 or 4 years ago, and this guy who I'm speaking of came up to me and he kind of made it. I don't want to make this sound the wrong way, but it kind of made it sound like I should already know who he is, even though I was the one with the show on television. He made it sound like, oh yeah, you probably know me. I'm like, sorry, dude, I don't know who you are. Oh well, I mean, you should, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh really? Okay, all right. So I mean, seemed like a nice enough guy, but it was definitely a little bit different situation for me. I like to approach things a little bit more from a humble standpoint rather than you should know me kind of thing. um, let's see here. Let me get some more of y'all's comments. Ryan Jimbo says, love your videos, man. Thank you very much. Robert Guthrie, hi from Massachusetts. Good to see you. We're from Louisiana, by the way. Our guard says, hey, Paul, it's been a while. I have a question. Do you know? It's about the Cajun Navy. We just did that. Paul, will Trump get the funding for his wall? I don't know. I got my own opinions about some of the things Trump's doing. I do support the wall, though, definitely. D6587 says, I'm here to spy on you white devils. I don't think everybody here is white, and I'm pretty sure they're not all devils, but I understand, if you are left leaning, why you probably think that, because the media has definitely trained you guys well. So, and that's probably sarcasm that you typed anyway. I doubt you're really from the left. But anyway, Jacob Galvin says, hey, Paul from Georgia. What's up, man? Joey Howard, hello from Big Texas. What's up, man? You're my neighbor, practically my homeboys. Let's see. Ryan Jimbo says, when is the next caliber comparison video? No pressure, just curious. Man, I got to get that 45 caliber one out, because after I do the 45, the history on the 45, then we're going to do the actual, excuse me, guys. Then we'll do the actual comparisons. We have some gel tests we're going to do, some recoil tests. I'll tell you guys, I'm kind of waiting on a product right now to complete the caliber comparison. This is going to sound like a cop-out, which I guess it kind of is, but it is the truth. But I've got a company out there that we ran into at SHOT Show a couple of years ago, I believe. And I had already purchased their current product that they had. But I told them some of the testing that I was doing on my own to try to measure recoil using accelerometers. Accelerometers are pretty much the kinds of things that are in iPhones and iPads that know when it's lifting up like this. You know what I mean? It knows when you turn your phone up this way, or if you turn your phone like that, it flips the picture. It's basically kind of like a level, but a 3-axis level in your phone, so to speak. That's the best way I know to simplify it. And it measures all kinds of things. And the thing was, all these smartphones are constantly measuring all these things, but they don't record any of it or show you what it's measuring. And I had gotten an app for my iPhone that was an actual accelerometer that would measure the X, the Y, and the Z axis. And I rigged up all kinds of cool stuff on my arm and my hand when I shot a gun, and it would allow me to somewhat. It's kind of a poor man's way of measuring this, but it was allowing me to compare different types of recoil. So it would take that measurement this way. That's two. When you come back like this, that's two of the axes or the axes. I mean, you have your x-axis that you're dealing with. Excuse me, your y-axis, and your y-axis is here going up as the muzzle rises, and the z-axis is what's coming back, because you see when you're rising, the muzzle's also coming backwards like that. So I was measuring those two, and of course the x-axis, which is left and right. And oddly enough, I was getting some play on the x-axis too, especially on the 40 caliber. So it was interesting to me to be able to show that you have three different axes that are being affected by recoil. So I reached out to this company when I ran into them. I said, "Hey, I've got your product. Is there anything that you guys can do to capture that data? Because I know you're already capturing it in your device, but is there a way I can see it? Is there a way I can look at it?" And oddly enough, he did tell me at the time when I ran into him, yes, we already capture all of that. We have a way to show you. It's not ready yet. Well, they reached out to me about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they said that they pretty much have it, but it's so new that they don't even have a CNC cut version of it that will attach to a gun yet. That's how new it is. They have all the electronics design. They have all the coding and programming written to record, capture it, and to visually show you, but they just don't have it in a workable unit yet. Because what I offered to do, I said, send me a prototype and I'll actually do a video and utilize it. And you guys can use that to sell your stuff over at SHOT Show. And they said, we'd love to do that. We just don't have a working prototype right now. Not one that they felt like would stand up to recoil, the blast of a gun. So anyway, either the week of SHOT Show is in about 2 or 3 weeks, or for sure at SHOT Show, I will have my hands on one. I know that took me a long way to get here, but the reason why I'm waiting on that is because I want to be fair and show the recoil comparisons. The problem with what I had before by just strapping the smartphone to my hand with an accelerometer app in it is that because the strap was being strapped on, there was too much play. Like if I had this thing strapped to my hand and I had recoil, well, once the thing recoiled, you see the package this thing might stay in one place before it recoils with my hand. So instead of recoiling like this, where the whole unit goes back like it's part of my hand would recoil some, and then the thing itself would come back. So it wasn't given a true representation of what recoil was. So unfortunately, if I were gripping the gun a little bit better, or maybe the thing loosened up between shots and so it wiggled a little bit more, it would have a completely inaccurate reading on it. Now, with that being said, the unit that I'm getting is actually, I'm going to have to figure something out, because one of the things I'm doing is comparing them in guns like this, the subcompacts. They don't have rails on them. So I'm in the process of working on that, finding some kind of a Picatinny device that will actually affix to the what am I trying to say? The trigger guard. So I'm trying to find something that will do that right now. They actually make some things, the Picatinny rails that will hook to the bottom of your floor plate in your magazine. So I'm looking at that also. But anyway, I'm waiting on that. Once I get that in, I believe I'm going to have some pretty cool stuff that I can do to measure recoil. The 40 caliber is probably going to be the most telltale one, because it's going to show some side-to-side x-axis stuff. That's going to be pretty interesting, that most people don't, I think, realize how violent that 40 caliber recoil is, and that it actually shows some pretty interesting stuff that the 9 and the 45 don't actually have. Let's see. Let me grab a sip of my beer, guys. You know the deal. I'm running behind tonight. That's my first beer. Haven't had a chance to drink anything. A couple things I want to go over real quick. If you have not checked out our Rock Island Armory VR80 video that we put out, please check it out. Do me a big favor. Like it, share it as much as you possibly can. The reason why I say that is because Rock Island Armory was kind enough to give us the very first VR80. They sent us literally the very first one. These guns are not going to be for sale until the first day of SHOT Show, which is, I believe, the 22nd of January. They sent me this gun back in November and said, look, you can't show pictures, you can't do anything until December 15th, at which point you can do whatever you want. So just to show them the respect of being nice enough to give us the first gun out of all the people they could have sent them to, magazines, other YouTube guys that are certainly much bigger than us. It was nice of them to have sent that to me. And I want to make sure that they see that not only did they make a good decision by sending that to us, but that we're appreciative of that also. So if you guys could share that video and get it out there, make sure people are looking at it, I would appreciate that, because I want Rock Island again to know that they made a wise choice. Of course, you might have already seen my video that I did on the hockey puck thing, where the Michigan College was issuing hockey pucks to defend against mass killers entering their school. That was fun. I enjoyed doing that. In fact, I saw Brent Flash on here from, he's one of the cowboy action shooters at the SAS Club range that I shoot at. It's their range, their own private range, up the Creek Gang down in Southwest Louisiana. A lot of good guys in that. If I had more time, I'd actually shoot with them. I just don't have the time to. Heck, I don't get to shoot USPSA anymore, and I love shooting USPSA. I rarely get a chance to catch a match. But yeah, Brent and them's range is that the Up the Creek Gang's range is the range that I'm actually shooting most of my videos at, that I shoot now. But for sure, the cool little targets that you see on that hockey puck video, and actually the VR80 video also, because I was able to shoot the VR80, that long range chicken at 56 yards. That's one of the targets that the cowboy action guys shoot as well. So kind of cool. I want to go over something really, I say really quick. This is probably not going to be real quick. You guys, of course, know that it has been made official now with the whole bump stock thing. Even though we were talking about all the bump stock stuff, it was never official until it was actually filed, until the government actually filed it and said, okay, now it's law. Before that, it was just a rumor more than anything, like a justified rumor, one that we knew was going to happen, but we didn't have proof of. So it's a deal now. It's a thing. So I guess now that it's official, organizations like Gun Owners of America waited until then, because you can't sue a law that's not in effect. So they were waiting for the law to go into effect officially so they could file their lawsuit. There's a very good friend of mine who is an ATF liaison for predator silencers out of Lafayette, Louisiana. He is an attorney as well. And he's really my, I guess you could say, my go-to source for pointing me in the right direction, because let's face it, I'm not an attorney. Whenever I look at stuff like this, it takes me a few times to read it before I can actually comprehend it, where he knows what to look at. And he sent me some attachments today that I thought I might find interesting. And it comes from the Gun Owners of America's lawsuit against the federal government, more notably against Whitaker, the Department of Justice head. And there's some key things in here. And it's Josh, by the way, is the name of the attorney that's a big help to me on this. Really interesting, these things that he sent me. He essentially sent me, for one, he sent me the wording of the actual lawsuit by Gun Owners of America. And I'll get into some of that meat here in a minute, because there's some interesting stuff in there as well. But he sent some supporting documents that Gun Owners of America are using to make their argument. And guys, I'm going to go over it. I'm going to put a full video together on all of this with on-screen stuff and things that we can all read and make better sense of. But I felt like this was important enough and hot enough where I wanted to talk about it tonight. Some of the things that he includes are subpoenaed emails from the ATF. Very interesting to be able to look, basically peek up and look behind the curtain at the big machine sometimes, and how they talk about us poor common folk. Essentially what they've done, the ATF was provided evidence and expert evidence on top of that, that showed them that a bump stock was not and could not be ever a machine gun. Of course, the ATF was reminded again that they had no jurisdiction over bump stocks or any accessories for that matter. But they were pointed out by experts. In fact, some of their experts were anti-bump stock. They did not like bump stocks. They even said in their emails that they felt like bump stocks should be made illegal. But in their same email to these guys, it's an email group at the ATF, they also state that these aren't machine guns and that we don't have any jurisdiction. It's like It's like they're sitting back there going, bump stocks are bad. We don't like them. They should be outlawed, but we don't have the jurisdiction to do it, and they are not machine guns. So the wording in the Gun Control Act is actually supportive of the bump stock, not of us banning them or putting any kind of legislation out. I say legislation, that's supposed to come from Congress, but they supersede or pretty much usurp the authority of Congress when they put all this stuff out. I'm going to see if I can find some of the things that that pointed me in that direction that were pretty eye-opening to me. Let's see. Here we go. One of these comes from, and as you can see, some of the stuff's redacted. So I'm going to read you a couple of things in this chain. There's three different communiques that came across. Tom, just to help you guys, sometimes you need an outside view. Here is mine on bump stocks. The trigger is only pulled once by human action when the shooter pulls the barrel forward and the first round is expelled. After that, the trigger finger never changes GPS position and it is never pulled back again by human action. Rather, the whole receiver recoils instead of the bolt. Clearly, it could and should come under the NFA. I know you know all this stuff. I recommend an overruling of the prior decision and putting it under the NFA, regardless of what Congress does or does not do. Okay, this is a person who clearly feels like bump stock should not be in there. They're misrepresenting the definition of a bump stock, even though they have expert communique that came to them telling them exactly the opposite of this. These guys that are writing this particular letter that I'm reading from, they're not the experts. They're the bureaucrats. They're the ones that sign paychecks. They're the ones that manage people. They're not the experts. So these are opinions that he's got in here, and he's basically saying that the expert information that I got, I'm not interested in that. These things should not be legal, and he's misstating what they do or don't do in here. Okay, this line just blew me away. I recommend an overruling of the prior decision and putting it under the NFA, regardless of what Congress does or does not do. You can do it fast, and it is the right thing to do. Don't let the technical experts take you down the rabbit hole. That's incredible. When you tell somebody, don't let the technical experts take you down the rabbit hole, that's saying, I don't care what the experts say. This is what I think. That's unbelievable. For any educated human being to say, ignore the facts, this is what we should do, that's arrogant. That is a sign of arrogance that I've not seen personally in my life. Not in person. I've never seen that before. This person needs to be, they need to be bitch slapped. I mean, because they clearly think they are bigger than what they really are. As a voter, as a taxpayer, I don't authorize this kind of misuse of this kind of bureaucracy. Absolutely not. I'd like to know what Tom's last name is. All I've got is Tom on here. They've redacted the rest of his name. What an ass. So the next follow-up to that, the follow-up to Tom's email says, thanks. At FTB Now, I don't know what FTB is, came to shoot it myself. I'm very concerned about public safety and share your view. Have a nice day, Tom. The response to that, thanks, Tom. Found I often had to override experts. Lab, ETB, etc. They get in such a technical world, they can lose common sense. These guys are literally saying in records that have been and can be subpoenaed, ignore the experts. They sought out the experts. In other words, they asked for experts to comment back. They didn't get the response they wanted, so now they're saying, ignore the guys. We're going to do our own thing anyway. Unbelievable, guys. I'm sorry, my nose is itching like crazy right now. Let's see. Let me find something else here that was ignored. Let's see, guys. I think this is essentially saying, here we go. Yeah, this is the letter here. It's from atf-family@googlegroups.com. Does not have the person's name who it belongs to. It's either been redacted or deleted. But the person says, they go into and they mention how the Las Vegas shooter supposedly used a bump stock. Yeah, here we go. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. This is a person who is clearly against bump stocks, very much against bump stocks. But they point out exactly what we've been saying, that these people have no jurisdiction over these, that they don't turn a bump stock, a rifle into a full auto. So this person wants these banned, but is providing the information to not ban them or for the ATF to not have a hand in them. If you guys will bear with me, let me read this. This was kind of telltale, very telling to me. The Las Vegas shooter used a bump stock accessory that attaches to the stock of a semi-automatic rifle and enhances the rate at which the shooter can pull the trigger of the firearm. This increases the rate of fire close to that of an actual machine gun. Notice he says close to that. He does not say it makes it an actual machine gun or that it's identical to that of a machine gun. He says it's close to it. Had the shooter chosen to purchase an actual machine gun from a federally licensed machine gun dealer instead of using a bump stock, he could have. There are more than 490,000 legally registered machine guns available to citizens in the United States. The focus on the Vegas shooter's use of bump stock obscures the fact that this individual could have just purchased actual machine guns legally. Exactly right. The NFA defines a machine gun to include any combination of parts designed and intended for use in converting a weapon to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. ATF also holds that any item that can also cause a firearm to fire more than one shot by the single function of the trigger is also regulated as a machine gun. Now, we keep going back to that single function of the trigger. That's been my argument all along, and that's what this guy's focusing on as well. The bump slide and a number of other similar aftermarket accessories that increase the rate at which a shooter can pull the trigger are purposefully engineered to avoid regulation under federal law. These accessories do not cause the firearm to shoot more than one shot by the single function of a trigger pull. Let me say that line again. This is in an ATF email amongst these guys. These accessories do not, and he says that in capital letters, right above my finger there. You can read that. These accessories do not cause the firearm to shoot more than one shot by the single function of a trigger pull. There is a trigger pull for each shot caused by these accessories, and that is why ATF does not have the legal authority to regulate them. The notion that ATF chose not to regulate an item it had the authority to regulate is completely false. The law is very clear and it does not currently allow ATF to regulate such accessories. Amen. I'm not going to read this again because it's kind of a duplication of it. Here we go, man. These guys, and then they actually, a lot of this same wording, the intent for this particular email right here was because the ATF was feeling like a bunch of pansies because the poor guys were getting, the general public was mad at them. So he actually is using this information to put together pretty much a form letter, a standard letter that people could use to send to congressmen to get Congress to take on their own responsibility and do whatever they needed to do with the bump stock and leave it out of the hands of the ATF. This was his way of saying, hey, this isn't our problem. This is your problem, Congress. Y'all deal with it. So this guy tells us everything we need to know that we already know about bump stocks and how they do not make a gun a machine gun. They ignored this, as you can tell by the previous letter that they had, that they chose to ignore it. It wasn't an opinion that this is, oh, we don't think it's a or it's a machine gun. They know it's not. By their own admission, they know it doesn't make it a machine gun, but they want to ignore it anyway. They want to ignore it because they want them banned. So they did what they wanted to do, which brings me to the actual lawsuit by Gun Owners of America. Gun Owners of America used Rick Vasquez. Rick was with the ATF for 14 years, I believe. He's an expert. If you've ever looked at any kind of legal laws or anything like that pertaining to the ATF or accessories or whatever, Rick is a big-time consultant. Rick Vasquez, or Vasquez, however you want to pronounce his name. He's a known guy in this world and what we all do. And he is the expert that is instrumental in building the case for Gun Owners of America. I'm not going to read everything because there's like 15 or 20 pages. But what I will do is I remember on page 11, there was something that I felt needed to be shared. And Rick's explanation of a bump stock and all that good stuff is really good in here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, this is the scary part. What Rick does is he titles this section Analysis of ATF's Regulation. What he's essentially doing is taking the regulation that's been written and made into law this week by the ATF regarding bump stocks, and he breaks it down and explains, using their wording, what they're really going after, which is semi-automatic guns, and we've said that all along. If you guys will bear with me, I'm going to read some of this because I think this is very important. ATF's regulation using the term harness the energy in describing the operating system of a bump stock such as a slide fire stock. Yet all semi-automatic firearms operate from the action of harnessing the energy of the gases or from blowback. What he's essentially saying is their new ruling is saying that the reason why this gun does what it does and makes it a machine gun is because it harnesses the energy of the gun itself. What Rick is stating right here is that all guns harness the energy. If they're semi-automatic in any kind of way, they are harnessing the energy to load that next round and fire your next shot. So he goes on to say, action of the gases is when a firearm uses a portion of the gas from the ignited gunpowder to cycle the firearm, or it uses a blowback method of operation. Both of these systems harness the energy of the fired cartridge to cycle the firearm. When a semi-automatic firearm fires, it cycles a fresh round of ammunition and resets mechanical components, and the shooter releases the trigger sufficiently to allow the fire control components to reset. Using the new standard provided in ATF's regulation that the bump stock, such as the slide fire, harnesses the energy to shoot automatically, places all semi-automatic firearms at risk of being classified as machine guns. So in other words, they're saying that if it harnesses the energy, that's making it a machine gun. Well, all semi-automatics harness energy to perform the next shot. All of them do. And they've already gotten around the one pull per trigger, per fire shot, because the bump stock doesn't do that. It requires an additional pull for every single time. So they've already sidestepped that to make their argument. And now they're using this new harnessing of energy to say that by harnessing the energy of the actual gun, expelling its gases, and providing the next round to be loaded and to be fired, that's making it a machine gun. I don't own a semi-automatic that doesn't do that. That, by definition of a semi-automatic, is it's actually how it works. Rick goes on to say the only way ATF could protect all semi-automatic weapons from being classified as machine guns under the new rule is to set a standard for the maximum rate of fire before a firearm is classified as a machine gun. For example, a semi-automatic would not be regulated as a machine gun if it did not fire more than X rounds per minute. Of course, it is entirely unclear who would set that standard and how it would be regulated. Yeah. I'm not going to keep going because I'm kind of getting pissed off. They're right. They're exactly right. They say what we've been saying all along. You can go back and look at my videos. That's what they've been after all along. Has been semi-automatic guns. It's not about AR-15s. It's not about bump stocks. It's about semi-auto guns, semi-auto shotguns, semi-auto automatic pistols, semi-automatic rifles. It doesn't matter to them what a rifle looks like. It really doesn't. I've said all along that they're after the AR-15 because emotionally some people get rattled by it. It's just like, and I'm going to say this as politely as I can, just like some of these racist Democrats are closet racists because they act like they're not racist, but the very sight of a black man following them on a street makes them clutch their purse and all that. Then they try to turn it around on Republicans and say that they're the racists. You know, just looking at some black people, some of these racist Democrats get scared. Just looking at a black gun like an AR-15 scares a lot of these people. Just the actual look of it. So a lot of these Democrats realize that simply by showing someone a picture of an AR-15, if it's enough to make them emotional and get them emotionally invested and frightened, then that's a first step. Because the first step is getting somebody emotionally against something. Once you can convince them, as stupid as they are, that they fell for that, but once you can convince a person to emotionally stay scared of something every time they just see the sight of it, you've won. You've won because you never have to convince them again to be scared because just by sight alone, they're going to be scared of it. So that's what they're focusing on the AR-15 now because it's easy. You know, it's an attainable thing for them to ban because so many people are emotionally distressed by the look of it. And I'm saying that without even laughing, even though inside I'm dying laughing because the look of nothing should ever scare anyone, except clowns maybe. But it's one of these kind of things that semi-automatic handguns and guns in general, that's essentially what the end goal is. That's what they're really after. And I mean, Rick Vasquez and Gun Owners of America, they nail it. I think with what Josh sent me, these 3 documents that he sent me today, this is just, the ATF is not going to win. Guys, they're not going to win. Now, I don't know the law well enough to know, is this something when, and I don't know, maybe some of you guys are attorneys out there. If this is in place as a law right now, if there are lawsuits out there to strike this down, what happens during that time? In other words, if there's legitimate lawsuits in March, 3 months from when this thing was passed, all this stuff is supposed to become law from a real standpoint to me and you, because at that point, we'll become felons if we have not destroyed our bump stocks. They actually give you in the ruling, if you get a chance to look at the ruling, they actually show you where you can cut this thing, the different places where you can cut it to destroy this thing so it cannot be rebuilt or reused as a bump stock. But again, my point here is what happens? Does this law still go into effect in March? Do we all still become felons in March? Things are going to get really interesting by the time March rolls around. Watch how many people, and what I mean by that is how few people turn these things in. You watch. But I mean, what happens? I mean, I don't know how the law works. I don't know how, I need to find out because obviously I need to find out. I got one here and let's see, one over there. Yeah, I'd like to know what's going to happen. But at the same time, we know this isn't going to become law, or it's going to be struck down, I should say. What happens during that time? Again, I don't know in the gun world that we've ever dealt with what they call the ex post facto law. I've never dealt with that in any kind of way, whether it's guns or not. What I mean by that is, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this right, ex post facto. That's essentially a law that, okay, I don't know, what can I use as a good, let me use beer as an example. I guess that's a pretty good example. I guess beer was one of them, right? Ex post facto law that's not a good example. Let me say blue ink pens. Okay, today blue ink pens are perfectly legal to purchase, own, and use. There's no law that outlaws using blue ink pens. I bought it legally, I use it legally, I possess it legally. I bought it with my own money, and I paid taxes on it, okay? If you pass a law tomorrow that says suddenly, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter why you're passing the law, but if you pass a law stating now blue ink pens are not only illegal, but if you don't turn your blue ink pen in or destroy it, and you are found with a blue ink pen that is in working condition, you will have up to a $250,000 fine or 10 years in prison. That's an ex post facto law. Our Constitution strictly prohibits that. It says specifically in the United States Constitution, not an amendment, in the actual Constitution that was written originally, it states that ex post facto laws are illegal and they're not allowed in this country. The ATF just passed an ex post facto law. And let me get that right, guys. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. I'm going to look that up. And you guys have probably already said that online, that whether I'm right or wrong, but I really want to make sure that I'm not wrong about this, because I would feel really stupid if I'm telling you the wrong information. No, that's what it's called. Ex post facto. I just want to make sure. I'm not really good with some of that terminology sometimes. But in fact, I probably can find the part in the Constitution right here, since I have it pulled up. Let me see. It will most likely state in here. Let's see. I'm on the Cornell Law. Tell you what. Let me put Constitution behind that, and I can tell you exactly where in the Constitution it is. I have my own pocket Constitution. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to the Constitution, but I do have my own pocket Constitution that I have outlined this in. Okay, here we go. Is this the right thing that I'm pulling up? Maybe not. Maybe not. Sorry, I'm not trying to waste your time, but I do want to back up what I'm saying. I don't want you to just take my word for it. This is some legitimate stuff. These things are expressly forbidden. Here we go. Let me read this. Go figure, Wikipedia. An ex post facto law is a law that retroactively changes the legal consequences of actions that were committed or relationships that existed before the enactment of the law. In criminal law, it may criminalize actions that were legal when committed. It may aggravate a crime by bringing it into a more severe category than it was when it was committed. It may change the punishment prescribed for a crime, as by adding new penalties or extending sentences. Or it may alter the rules of evidence in order to make conviction for a crime likelier than it would have been when the deed was committed. Let's see. Let me get down to... Bear with me 1 second, guys. I want to get this. This is important. This is, in my opinion, what most of this crap is based on with the ATF, that they cannot do this. Here we go. In the United States, Congress is prohibited from passing ex post facto laws by Clause 3 of Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution. The states are prohibited from passing ex post facto laws by Clause 1 of Article 1, Section 10. This is one of the relatively few restrictions that the United States Constitution made to both the power of the federal and state governments before the 14th Amendment. Thomas Jefferson described them as equally unjust in civil as in criminal cases. Over the years, however, when deciding ex post facto cases, the United States Supreme Court has referred repeatedly to its ruling in Calder versus Bull, in which Justice Samuel Chase held that the prohibition applied only to criminal matters, not civil matters, and established 4 categories of unconstitutional ex post facto laws. The case dealt with the, you don't need to know about that. That's blah, 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 blah. I don't see. Let's see here, guys. Well, it does point out, of course, where that is in the Constitution. But my point is, it's written again Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution that they're expressly prohibited. You cannot pass one. Now, one thing that perplexed me, and I know this is a play on words, and I know that it's strictly semantics, but I got to point this out because I'm not an attorney, but I know how attorneys can twist everything. Do you notice where it says, where it is? Here we go. Congress is prohibited from passing ex post facto laws. Now, it goes without saying that it was Congress's job in the first place to pass laws. In other words, the ATF never had approval via our own Constitution to pass a law to begin with. So if the Congress hasn't passed an ex post facto law, but the ATF has, then per the Constitution, Congress has not passed the ex post facto law. The ATF has. My point is, the Constitution doesn't say that bureaucracies cannot pass ex post facto laws. Now, I know we're digging up a can of worms here because the Constitution also does not give a bureaucracy the right to make laws. The Constitution expressly states that Congress is who's supposed to be making those laws. You see what I'm saying? It's like a dog chasing its tail. So, yeah, Congress didn't pass this ex post facto law, and it's Congress's job to pass laws. So Congress is running from its own responsibility, but technically Congress hasn't passed an ex post facto law because they didn't do it. They punted this to the ATF. So at some point we have to decide that the ATF didn't have jurisdiction, like we've been saying all along. They didn't have jurisdiction to pass any laws whatsoever per the Constitution. And then once they do that, then it's going to be up to Congress to pass a law. And then Congress, per the Constitution, is expressly prohibited from passing an ex post facto law, and that would be illegal to do. I know I'm getting into the weeds, and I'm not a really good talker. I'm not good at explaining these types of things. But this is a mess. This is a mess right here. This is a mess because the ATF is taking on jurisdiction that they don't have per the Constitution, and Congress is over here praying to God that responsibility is not kicked back to them, because then they're going to have to make some anti-gun laws that they're not going to be happy with because somebody's going to be upset. And then what do we do if Congress, let's look at it this way. What happens if Congress does get this kickback to them? And what happens if they do say, all right, fine, y'all didn't like the ATF's ruling? We agree with the same thing. We're passing this into law. What happens to the members of Congress who try to pass an ex post facto law? It's against the Constitution. That's treason. That's treason. Not only are you violating the Second Amendment for whatever reason that you pass all these other laws out there, including the Gun Control Act, but now you're passing something that's got nothing to do with guns. You're violating Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution by trying to pass an ex post facto law. Guys, this is going to get very interesting. Again, my biggest concern at this point, this is not going to stick. It's not going to stick. There's no way this sticks in the current form that it's in. There's no way. The only way this even becomes something that has any real staying power is if it goes through Congress. It's not going to happen through the ATF. The ATF is crafting their own bed. This is not going to last in the current condition that it is. The problem is, what happens during that time? And I'm not reading y'all's comments because I'm looking at this other page over here. Maybe we got attorneys in the room, but what happens at that point? What happens between now and March? And there's a very good chance that in March, things will not be settled. Heck, the best thing that probably will happen in March is, or by March, is that maybe something goes to court. At some point, it's going to have to go to Supreme Court. And what? They don't go to court until May or June. The Supreme Court doesn't. So there's a lot of time in there that this law would actually make a lot of people felons. What does that do to us? How many homes does that break up? Because the father figure is now thrown in jail for either 10 years or $250,000 that he doesn't have. How many homes are going to be lost? How many people are going to be put in jail and lives ruined while this stuff plays out in court? And then for a law that was unconstitutional in the first place. Hey, if I get put in jail, you guys can look for me, because I'm going to tell you one thing. When I get freed out of jail, I will sue the federal government so freaking fast that my address might actually be the White House when I get done with them, because I've done nothing wrong. If I go to jail, if I spend time based on something that wasn't legitimate, wasn't legal, and was unconstitutional in the first place, if I'm going to lose everything to begin with, it's going to be worth my while when I get out. I promise you that. And I'm not talking about going out there and committing any kind of violence. I'm talking about getting my constitutional rights restored and getting my past restored for what gets screwed up. And I'm speaking from everybody out there that feels like this is unconstitutional and shouldn't take place. This is not right. This is crazy. And this is only on the 3 documents that I've read thus far. Unbelievable. The ex post facto thing is just something that blows me. I'm making a t-shirt that says ex post facto on it. I just made that decision in my head right now. I'm gonna do that because I'll never forget that phrase again. It's not right, guys. It's not right. It's not right. You cannot outlaw blue ink pens just because when I bought this thing legally, I use it legally, I possess it legally, I paid taxes on it, but I'm not going to get reimbursed for the money I spent for this blue ink pen. The tax dollars that I spent to buy this blue ink pen, they don't get returned to me. The state and the federal government, whoever took part in those taxes, because obviously the manufacture and distribution of something like this, there's taxes that are scattered all over from people distributing it, trucking lines, airplanes, mail, the post office. The government made money when this stuff was mailed. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that profited off this blue ink pen, and I get nothing once you outlaw this thing except a trip to prison and a $250,000 fine. No, man, that's not the way this country works. It's not. And if we sit back silently and quietly and allow this to happen, dude, we're giving up. We don't have the right to argue about anything else pertaining to the Second Amendment if we don't stand firm on this crap right here. And make no mistake about it, this is not my defense of bump stocks. Yeah, I got to. They're impractical. They serve no real use. If I'm going to go commit a crime, that's the last thing I'm going to do is grab one of those stupid things. But it doesn't mean you can take it from me. It doesn't mean that you can rip it out of my hands without reimbursing me for it. And there's no just reason to outlaw it in the first place, regardless of whether or not I get compensated for it. I don't care if you're giving me $1,000 for that thing. It doesn't give you the right to take it from me. I purchased it legally and I've done nothing wrong with it. This is crazy, man. This is crazy place that we're going to right now. I pray to God that the court systems are not as corrupt as I'm pretty sure that they already are. Because we already see what happens behind closed doors with the bureaucracies out there. Imagine what happens with the real people out there that are making these decisions, like judges that are going to be working on this kind of stuff. Very scary, guys. Very scary. There's some wicked stuff going on right now with this stuff. And I mean, we got to pray or pray, hope, whatever you want to do. I don't know what your religious belief is or whatever, but this is something that we gotta see this thing through. If you see any news on this thing, you need to talk about it. I'll tell you one thing I'm going to do is, after I take a drink of my beer, I'm going to take this letter right here from this ATF family group, and I'm going to pull a lot of the wording that this gentleman had, who is an employee of the ATF, and I'm going to put together a form letter. This form letter will be a form letter that can go to all of the senators, congresspersons, the president. I'm going to do, what is it called again? I keep getting it mixed up with GoFundMe. It's not GoFundMe. Whatever the petition site is, I forget what it's called. I've got it bookmarked on my iPad down below. I'm going to put something together there. Every time somebody signs it, it sends a letter to every single member of Congress, as well as the president, the vice president, ATF as well. Speaking of GoFundMe, this is something that is kind of out there that we haven't discussed in much detail because, as we all know and has been reminded to me, yeah, Jarrett says change.org. That's right. I contacted my friend Josh, who is the attorney out of Lafayette that I just spoke of, the one that's really helped me out on a lot of this information. And I told him, I said, why don't we sue the federal government over this? I'm game. And he's like, well, lawsuits take a lot of, time, activity, money, things like that. And I told him, I said, what if we put together a GoFundMe? And he made the comment that, not necessarily a group like the NRA or Gun Owners of America, but like specifically a Louisiana type group that would get behind a certain movement. That's another topic altogether. But as far as the GoFundMe, that's possibly doable. We could write in there that we're assembling this GoFundMe page for anybody that wants to take part in helping fund the whole, lawsuit that we could put forth. And if we have enough funding to be able to support funding that lawsuit, then we would go forth with it. Now, I don't know how you redistribute the money after that. If for some reason we don't have enough money, let's say you need, I don't know, I'm using this example. Let's say we need $10,000 to go to court and we only get $8,000. Not enough. Okay. What do we do with the $8,000? How do we give it back? Do we give it back? Do we form an organization? You know what I mean? I don't like dealing with other people's money. I don't like fooling with other people's money. I like handling other people's money. So that's where we're at right now, trying to figure out how we would do that. But if we put together a GoFundMe out there for a lawsuit against the federal government, you guys will be the first ones to know, because obviously we'll need all the help we can get. I think that we could be probably successful at that, to be honest with you guys. Man, that's where I'm at right now. As you can see, I get a little bit, okay, good. Ty J says, then GoFundMe refunds the money if goals are not met. Okay, good. That solves the problem right there. Then we'll do it. We will definitely do it. Look for me to assemble that. I'm going to put that together. I don't have I've never dealt with GoFundMe other than to give other people money. I mean, I've seen people that have been in a bind and stuff like that I've tried to help out, but I've never had one or run one on my own. So I wasn't aware of that. That's great. So if we don't meet our goal, everybody gets their money back that contributed at that point. Super. That's good. We'll definitely do it. Yeah, guys, if you have any questions for me now, I know you guys have been burning it up. And we've got a very live room tonight too, by the way, guys. A lot of people watching. That's awesome. But yeah, give me your questions and all that. Let me, spend another couple of minutes on here trying to answer some of your questions. If you got some, try to address me, Legally Armed America, if you can, so that it'll highlight it in orange. Just give me your thoughts on anything gun related. And I'm going to take me another swig of my beer because my throat's very dry from running my mouth. Oh my gosh. That's funny. I shoot my AK naked. That's not me. I don't shoot mine naked. That's the handle of this viewer. It says, here in the mountains of Kentucky, federal law will never stop us. Good luck to them. Dude, that's not just in the mountains of Kentucky. There's a lot of gravel driveways. There's a lot of nice paved driveways. There's places that people will not go to retrieve something and to pass and to try to enforce a unconstitutional law, if you know what I mean. We all know that. Roger Kaiser says, can you not join the lawsuit with Gun Owners of America? For one, I don't think they need my help. They've already filed a lawsuit, so I don't think it's a matter of joining theirs. You see what I mean? I don't think that it's like an open enrollment type thing to say, all right, I want to be a part of it too. I think that they sought out who they wanted to be a part of it and then they filed. My thinking though is the more lawsuits out there, the more chances that it's going to stick. In other words, I think that it needs to be in another jurisdiction, another district, I should say. I don't know how many federal jurisdictions or districts they have out there. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I feel like if lawsuits were placed in these different ones, some of these circuit courts and all that are very, very liberal. Those are the ones that we're probably not going to have any luck in. So I feel like if there's individual lawsuits that are placed all over the country, at some point something will make its way to the Supreme Court. So I just hope so. Let's see. Mr. FNH says, thanks for the stream, Paul. I love it when you have a stream for us. You're very welcome. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. It does mean a lot to me. Haitian Refugee says, what's your opinion on defending Patreon? I don't have an opinion on defending Patreon. I'm not sure what you're asking about that. If you're talking about Patreon, I heard they weren't big fans of the gun community. Guys, we got a Patreon account. We don't use it. I'll tell you why. I know a lot of people, the military arms channel guys, I think the Iraq veteran guys, they make a living off of the money that they make on Patreon. I'm not dogging that. I'm just not comfortable going to you guys saying, hey guys, can you pay me some money to watch my videos? I've had people say, look, we'd pay it. We don't mind giving you the money. We'd rather see you on Patreon. My thing is, I feel like that I'm going to be pimping out my stuff, and I don't want to be put in that kind of position. Again, it's no disservice to the other guys who are doing it. I have a full-time job, so maybe it's more of a need thing. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's where I'm at on that. Is I don't know if that's what your question was on defending Patreon. I'm not defending Patreon. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, to be quite honest with you, because I don't deal with it. Let's see. Shepard says, I read an article titled "Former NYPD Law Enforcement Officer: Water Pistols and Nerf Guns are uncool, so turn them in." Yeah, man, that's a wormhole right there. That's unbelievable that we can get to this point where Nerf guns are considered deadly. Unbelievable that we can even think like that. That's not. My mind doesn't work like that. Let's see. Ashley Lecomte says, when we getting the M9A3 video? I don't know, man. That thing's still sitting here under my desk right now. Literally, it's sitting right here. Still sitting right here. I need to do something with that. I've got so many videos that I got to get out. I'm really, really, really behind, man. I'll get on it. I will get on it at some point. Let's see. Yeah, William Keller says the Gun Owners of America is taking money to fund this fight. We should help them. I agree. I think anybody, if that's spearheading a lawsuit out there, like I said, I think there needs to be multiple lawsuits. But I think anyone that's doing that is going to need financial, backing for that. That's why I'm talking about the GoFundMe. I don't have the money to sue the federal government. God knows I don't. They bleed me dry by lunchtime, Let's see. Yeah. Big Mo, thank you. Big Mo says, that's why I have your shirts and shop at your store. I appreciate that, man. I really do. And I know you do shop there. I appreciate that. We're working on our merchandise site. 2A Vault is our site, 2avault.com. And I've said it before, we're way behind on getting our merchandise out there. We've got tons of cool shirts. I just put together a really cool new shirt that should be coming in next week. Let me show you guys. Let's see here. Where is it? I'm real pleased with this shirt. If I can get the thing to show up, I will show you guys. Let me check the design here. We'll see. I want you to see this shirt. Very, very cool. I'm real happy with it. This is one that hopefully will be ready. Well, it will be ready for SHOT Show. Yeah, here we go. This is pretty cool. I like this one. That's definitely one of my new favorites right there. I guess I like the colors and all that good stuff. So that one should be coming out very soon. Um, yeah, we got tons of shirts. I mean, I just need to get them. I need to get them out and make sure you guys they're available for you guys because I mean we don't do a good enough job of doing that. That's our fault. You know what I mean? Um, Guys, it is 8:05. I really got to get down there and go give my little man a bath and put him to sleep. Talking about my son. Um, I hope you guys have a good new year. This is important, guys. I always say to be careful if you're going out drinking with your buddies or whatever, or if you're going out doing whatever, not to drink, get a designated driver. This time of year, you see a lot of people that lose their lives because of other drunk drivers. And that's one thing I don't think I talk about enough. Man, watch out for other people. I'm driving down the road the other night and nothing happened, but I'm just driving down the road the other night. And that's when it kind of hit me about other drivers who were impaired, texting, whatever. And I'm just sitting here watching and I'm like, man, it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much for a head on collision. With the drinking, things like that, but especially the texting, the amount of texting that you see people doing. I mean, at nighttime, you can drive down the road and see a person's face lit up because their phone is in front of their face while they're driving down the road. I'm not saying I've never texted and driven before, but I don't drive down the road like this. I absolutely do not do it. And it just makes you realize that, man, it does not take much. It takes just the right text coming in at just the right time where that person picks that phone up, where they're driving like this and they grab that phone and then they cross that center line and then hit somebody. It doesn't take much, man. It doesn't take much. So, man, please, guys, I know I always try to stress about us going out and not drinking and driving, but man, watch out for everybody else. Be on your best. Make sure that, you're on top of your game and that you're watching that other car. Don't text and drive because then you're not going to see that car that might be swerving or having a little bit of trouble staying in his own lane. So again, my thing always is I want to see you guys next week. Looking forward to it. Have a happy new year. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your families. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. Yes, we still call it Christmas. And hopefully you guys have a wonderful 2019. It's going to be a good year, I think, for everybody. I'm excited about the new year. Looking forward to some big things that we're going to be doing out there that I want to share with you guys as well. So hope you guys have a great weekend, great New Year's, and we will see you all in 2019 next week.